Good evening, welcome to tonight's school board meeting. It's Monday, April 10th, 2023, 6 o'clock. We're in Susan Valley Lives Board of the 7 building. We'd like to call them to order.
Mr. Gahern. Here. Mr. Gatton. Here. Mrs. Ingersoll.
Here.
Mr. Martell.
Here.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Here.
Mrs. Ray.
Here.
Mr. Scarrow.
Here.
Ms. Colton.
Here.
Ms. Williams.
Here.
We do have a quorum, so we will continue. Tonight's meeting was noticed for state statutes. We have a lot of people here tonight, but did we have anybody, community participation that's not on the agenda? Not seeing anything, so we'll move on to the Jackson Elementary School presentation.
Thank you for having us. And this is Bishop, the principal at Jackson Elementary, and Mrs. Wade is here as our first grade teacher, and she's going to introduce 4 of her students and some of their exciting writing. And as you can see, we have banner up right there, ready to go. So Mrs. Wade can tell you what the project was about.
All right, so in first grade, students get to pick an animal of their interest, and then they research, collect all the facts, and then they have to take those facts and turn them into a book. So they wrote a very rough draft, which they then edited, they added more details, and then we published this story. And our first graders usually get 2 weeks to publish this story, but these kiddos tonight did it in 4 days last week to be able to present this to you tonight. And I'm just so incredibly proud of how hard they worked on these stories or these nonfiction books, and they really learned a lot. So I can't wait for you to learn something new about the animals that they chose. And Cecil is ready to go up first. There you go. Where are you all set? I can.
Penguins by Cecil Bornell. All about penguins. By me. This book is dedicated to my dog Sandy. Did you know that female penguins give birth to one baby penguin at a time? I do. Let me tell you about penguins. Penguins. Did you know that a penguin is covered in keratin? It is. Keratin is what your hair and nails are made of. They weigh 70 pounds and are 1 foot long. Penguins live in Africa and Asia. They are found in tropical forests and grasslands. They like sandy soil and thick brush. Penguins are omnivores. They eat ants, termites, larvae, and leaves. Penguins have a strong sense of smell and long tongues to help them find their food. Here are some fun facts about penguins. Penguins are also called scaly anteaters. If you get too close to a penguin, it will roll into a tight ball. Thanks for reading about penguins. I hope you learned something new about these scaly creatures. Your glossary. There's it. Hair, no. Omnivore. Steak and bakery. Larvae. Have big smiling legs. That's what I think. Grassland is a land of name. Cecil, or about the author. Name, age 7. Grade, color 3. Okay, food, next week. Okay, school subject, writing. When I grow up, I want to be a paleontologist. And
Up next is Brinley. This book is all about sloths, right? Who did you dedicate this book to? Yeah. And they're all here tonight cheering fun.
The content is less study to Wednesday on the 2020 Did note that SAS can spend 90% of their life doing a sit down. They should likely tell you all about SAS. Did you know that a SAS study is fuzzy and free? Yes, they are. They have good cars that help them climb trees. Socks weigh 9 pounds and are 2 feet long. Did you know that socks live in the rainforest? Yes, they do. They are also found in Central and in South America. Socks are herbivores. They eat basic leaves and fruit. If they need water, they need to eat the pigments to get it. Here are some fun facts about sloths. Sloths are furry and sloths are excellent swimmers. I read learning about sloths. I wanted to read about sloths because I think they are interesting and I wanted to learn more. Picture of isolation. Carnivores are frequent
Easiest page, it's all about you.
338, 7, 8, first, favorite color blue, favorite utility, favorite school subject, writing, on a girl on a TPA.
Up next, we have Jackson. All right, what did you write about?
Lost my annual report by Jack. This book is
Dedicated.
dedicated to Grandma Jay's Papa Grandma. Table of contents. A Seawash full body. Word, page 2. Ocean 3. Page 3. Young. Page 4. Fun facts. Page 5. Introduction. Did you know seawash start as eggs? They attach to the ocean floor. Let me tell you all about seawash. Full bodies. Seawash have no bones. They have soft bodies. They can kill prey in 3 minutes. Seawash have 60 tentacles. Not Seawash live along the north coast of Australia. They can also be found in the mountains, creeks, and rivers. Yeah. Did you know that seawash are carnivores? They prey small fish, shrimp, and crabs. Use their tentacles to hunt. Fun facts. Here are some fun facts about seawash. They have 60 tentacles. They kill prey with their poisonous tentacles. Conclusion, I hope you enjoyed learning about seawash. Seawash, what? Because they are interesting and I want to learn more. Page glossary. Carnivores, tentacles, prey, Australia. All about authors. Name Jackson, age 7, grade 1st. Favorite color, red. Favorite food spaghetti. Favorite school subject math. I love I want to be an army man. Okay. And our last one is yeah. No, I like
All right. He wrote all about Komodo dragons.
all about Komodo dragons. My animal
Report.
report by Cash Schmidt. This book is dedicated to my family. The Komodo body, home sweet, the Komodo body, page 2, home sweet home, page 3, young, page 4, contract, page 5. Introduction. Did you know that female Komodo dragons lay eggs in a nest? Hatchlings live in trees to stay safe, and they can live up to 50 years. Let me tell you all about Komodos. Komodo dragonfly. Did you know that a Komodo dragon has a venomous bite? They do. They are 10 feet long and weigh about 150 pounds. Home sweet home. Komodo dragons live on small hot islands near Australia. Most live on an island called Komodo. They live in dry, open grasslands and tropical forests. Yum. Komodo dragons eat rabbits, reptiles, mammals, and birds. They are carnivores. Komodo dragons catch their prey with their venomous bite. Fun fact, they here are some fun facts about Komodo dragons. They are the world's largest lizard. Komodo dragons are good swimmers. They can smell dead animals from 7 miles away. Komodos live in the yellow parts of the earth. Conclusion. I hope you learned some things new about Komodo dragons. I think they are fascinating and wanted to research them. Venomous bites, carnivores, hatchlings, islands. My name is Cash. I am 7 years old. I am in first grade. My favorite color is red. My favorite food is shell mac and cheese. My favorite school subject is art. Then, when I grow up, I want to be a cop.
We hope you learned something new about these animals.
we just had great work, students. It's hard to get up and speak in front of a bunch of adults and strangers that you haven't met, and you guys did a wonderful job sharing your books with us. Thank you very much.
Jackson kids, can we go out in the hall? We can take your picture. All right.
Bring your tail.
I know,
Yeah, a couple of those.
Alright. This is from March 27th. That's your day. Questions or comments?
That's the March 27th, 2023 regular session school board meeting.
Second. Moving and seconded to approve the minutes of the March 27th.
Mr. Gayheart,
Yes.
Mr. Gatton,
Yes.
Mrs. Ingersoll,
Yes.
Sal,
Yes.
Donald,
Abstain.
Mrs. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Scarrow,
Yes.
Ms. Colton, Ms. Williams.
Motion carried. General and other fund bills, Mr. Sherman.
The general and other fund bills this evening covers checks number 14883 to 149,099, wire transfers 857 through 873, ACH checks 622 and 658, by amount $606,128.85. And there was a memo provides some additional information on several of the bills in the report packet.
Questions for Mr. Sherman? Hearing none, promotion.
I'll move to approve the general and other fund bills of April 10th, 2023, check numbers 148,993 to 149,099, wire numbers 857 to 873, ACH numbers 622 to 658, in the combined amount of $606,128.85 as presented.
Is there a second?
A second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the general and other fund bills of April 10th, 2023, checks numbered 148,993 to 149,099, wire numbers 857 to 873, ACH numbered 622 to 658, in the combined amount of $606,128.85 as presented. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gayheart,
Yes.
Mr. Gatton,
Yes.
Mrs. Ingersoll,
Yes.
Sal,
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Mrs. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Scarrow,
Yes.
Ms. Colton,
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carried. Intergovernmental agreement with Ms. Bay.
This is a renewal of an intergovernmental agreement that we have with Williams Bay to provide virtual school services for their students who want to participate in the Options Virtual School. Williams Bay is really I believe the only one currently, or do we still have another district?
The only one right now.
The services have been made available, so rather than their students having to open enroll in the school district, they can still remain a Williams Bay student, and then they pay us the tuition amount for the students. So this is continuing. This agreement we first started during the COVID pandemic, and they still have a handful of students. So it's just renewing that agreement.
What was the reason from going to 1 year to 2?
On
Was
the
the only
two
change,
line, go ahead.
It would align then with our other 6603 agreement with the CCA program.
That's a 2 year?
Yeah.
Got it.
So that way they, in the future, they would renew at the same time.
And then in here, it just says the district's prorational cost will be set forth in the contract, that's not in here, so are the dollar amounts
We,
changing?
yeah, we use the DPI open enrollment number.
Okay.
They determine that, and right now it's $8,224, so I think it's 58% of that figure.
So they get to keep, it's cheaper for them to do it that way than their kids.
Correct.
So with the, with going to options and them still being part of Williams Bay School District, does that mean that they are, we're not receiving funds from the state for those individuals? And that tuition pays for it? Okay.
And, similar with the CCA agreement, works the same. And Williams Bay is previously Lake Geneva, Delvin, Big Brook were all part of that. And Williams Bay's remained a part since, I guess, the mid-90s when the school opened. But they pay a prorated amount, whatever that cost is per pupil. So that does vary from year to year based on what that budget is.
Is it comparable, for whether or not they'd be here in the school district versus what they're paying out of, in tuition?
It's comfortable, it's our covers our operating expense for the program,
Gotcha.
but we would, if they were just straight open enrolled to us, we'd receive a little bit more as an open enrolled student rather than the 6600.
Okay, so then is this more of like a, hey, you're kind of like a neighbor, let's kind of help each other type of agreement type of thing? Is that the reason why we don't?
Helps offset the cost for the program as opposed to for students that we may not get otherwise, because now you have the local school district who's encouraging and or, you know, setting forth that as an option. We started this when another virtual school up north, they sent out mailers to everyone in the state, hey, we'll take your student for this dollar amount. We calculated to see, can we match that price point? Actually, Williams Bay reached out and asked, would rather work with you being a neighbor, having a relationship, than going to this other virtual school. So we calculated what's our operational cost, and that's where that original amount came up with.
Okay, thank you.
And those students can still stay sports within Williams Bay. They don't come into that.
Correct. Yeah. Right. They can stay, they graduate Williams Bay, they go to school from there, they can go.
Do we know how many students are currently enrolled in options from Williams Bay?
Two.
We
have two right now.
And do we know what grades they're in?
I'd have to look, I'm
Okay.
not sure right offhand.
Yeah, it's no rush, I was just curious.
Any other questions? It is an agreement. I know Williams Bay is relatively small, but it's something that we've really explored with some of the other various school districts. And, you know, to be frank, I'd like to see some of them also follow suit rather than duplicating programming, because likewise, I'd almost rather see them provide a program or a different option that, you know, some of our students that we may not offer here that perhaps, you know, they could take advantage of elsewhere. So we do have school districts who reach out and they check with us on a regular, I would say a couple times a year. We have districts that score that and look at sending students there.
Other questions?
I move to approve the intergovernmental agreement with the Williams Bay School District as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the intergovernmental agreement with the Williams Bay School District as presented. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Gayheart?
Yes.
Mr. Gatton?
Yes.
Mrs. Ingersoll?
Yes.
Bell?
Yes.
Yes.
Mrs. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Scarrow?
Yes.
Ms. Colton?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Motion carried. Report and discussion, student report. What is this?
I apologize.
All right, well, I hope everyone enjoyed their spring break, because I did. So to start off with West Side, on the left there is their Project Lead the Way Animal Crusade. And then in the middle there are some pictures from the assembly for the Kids Heart Challenge, and on the bottom you can see they're dumping paint on their teachers. And then the far right is some jelly bean math.
So in Tibbetts, Miss Jennifer from Matheson Memorial Library came into class and read some books to them. And then in the middle is a couple pictures from Pay It Back Day. Kids were asked just to do something small to give back to their teachers. So in the top picture, they're just reorganizing her bookshelf, and then there's a fifth grader reading to a kindergarten in the bottom picture. And then again, for their Project Lead the Way classes, they were building fax machines. So they're supposed to use simple machines to build like a pulley or a lever to lift up this toy tiger.
Yeah, and there's a story that goes along with each of their projects. So the tiger, I believe, is going into a village and they have to devise how to capture it, protect the village, transport it, and move it elsewhere. So design develop a solution. Hey, I want to give a shout out to Ms. Jennifer from the Matheson Memorial Library. She's over the children division and just does a fantastic job working with our staff on not just coming out and doing book readings, but the teachers will put together lists of here's, books would like to add to their classroom libraries, and she'll check those out, and for a couple of weeks they'll come out and rotate them and really do a lot of services for that and the benefits.
At Jackson, kids were doing multiplication assignments and then use that so they could have an ice cream sundae. And in the middle is a picture from their field trip. You could find more pictures, but looked out on that one. And then on the right, they read a book about Easter, and then they did some water painting with Easter eggs. At the middle school, they had their academic bowl, and they placed second overall, so hurrah to them. On the top, they had life skills class, and they had a special purple cup coffee service for the average showcase. They came through. On the bottom there is Tulsa State. Some middle school representatives came. I saw them. They did it really good, so I'm proud of them. And then on the top corner there is the trimester 2 honor roll students. So for high school, we had Tulsa State. This is my second year going. It's always a ton of fun. We did pretty well. We brought 39 students with us, so that was really great. In the middle there is FCCLA, also had state. I'm sure Abby can speak more about it.
Yeah, it was my first year going, and I really enjoyed it. We had 12 competing and 3 made it to nationals, so that's always exciting.
Excellent. Do we know how many made it to nationals from Tulsa?
I don't, sorry.
That's all right.
And then our 3-2-1 academic bowl. So at options, the 6th grade in-person academy classes are wrapping up. So there's just some highlights of them throughout the year. The classes were held every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. During the Tuesday and Wednesday classes, students had the opportunity to participate in person for reading and math instruction. And then they also had some teacher-guided virtual classes throughout the week. So on the left there is some blended art classes. In the middle, just an in-class learning session, and on the right there is volleyball. Lastly, CCA, they had an employer's visit to Grand Geneva, so they just got to tour downstairs and everywhere, and then on the right, they also had a tour of the Walworth County Sheriff's Department.
All right. Well, thank you. My name is John Ansel. I'm the community engagement coordinator for the district. And
Chris Trotter, Director of School Work Opportunities for the Elkhorn School District.
yeah, we want to share something that we started about 3 months ago.
Yep.
A little project for public relations, community engagement, and marketing called the New Whistle. But we also want to talk about, or Chris wants to talk about Elk Works, right? Which
kind of just give you a history and how we arrived at this idea. John probably is, but I'm not smart enough to come up with something like this alone. So we kind of started really thinking. I talked in my last presentation about how we can talk about all the career connected learning opportunities that we have going on in the district and house it under one simple brand without having so much vocabulary. So Jason, go to the next slide, please. So kind of came up with this idea called Elk Works, simplifying the message. and just earning, learning, and knowledge, right? Because we haven't found enough ways to use ELK as an acronym, so I added one more. And like I said before, like these are all these words, all these acronyms or abbreviations are all things that somehow we have to communicate to families and explain to them what they really are and how they fall under this under umbrella. And I finally just kind of came to the conclusion that like, wait, we may be the problem. Like we haven't simplified the message. So in the spirit of, coming up with an ELK-tastic solution, we came up with this kind of ELK Works. And in that process, we were thinking about how do we engage all the cool alumni stories that exist. And when I first arrived in this district, there were just unbelievable stories. So how do we tell our story through the lens of people? And originally I thought, well, let's just interview business partners. So we met as a team, and Jason's office was like, all right, let's do a podcast. All right, let's do a podcast. We get CEOs to come in. We'll get them on the podcast. That'll be cool, right? And then I started thinking about it, and I kind of said, well, who listens to podcasts and when? And I just kind of felt like that. I don't know, like I do it well, first of all, I do it, which means 50-year-olds. And then second of all, I do it when I'm on a long trip or cutting the grass. And if you listen to podcasts, it's fine. I'm just saying that was my thinking. So and then plus we have to schedule them to come in. So we said, how can we create something that's super nimble and easy? So we started doing some research and discovered this idea of StreamYard. Next slide, Jason.
Which is essentially a video podcast, but we didn't have to bring people in. We could, and you'll see we can communicate or interview or have on the show and have interaction with people anywhere without taking them out of their environment or away from their business day to talk to us about whether that's youth apprenticeships or things like that. So that's kind of how we came full circle on the video and the video podcast.
We're trying to figure out how can we, okay, so tomorrow we do it every Tuesday at noon. The power of StreamYard is not only can we invite a guest from anywhere we want, it's literally like a virtual link, like a Google Meet or a Zoom, and they can click on and away we go. And the power of it is it streams to multiple social media networks as we're on. So we try to pick which has the greatest amount of followers, right? So we stream it to my LinkedIn page and my Twitter account. We stream it to the high school's YouTube page, and then we to the
LinkedIn.
Yeah, and then the Facebook page for the community engagement. So we push it out, so it's live. Now the software allows you to record it too, and then push it out. But what we found is we then download it at the end, and then we put it into YouTube and we push it out again. And we're getting anywhere between, I don't know.
Well, to be transparent, we get 5 to 10 people live.
Yeah.
We're early on in the process, but we were surprised by recording it and putting it to all those mediums. We've had times where it's close to 400 people that have engaged with it.
And the power of sharing our story is one, we had, not that anybody here ever played in it, but we had the mini Hooply guys on, the founders, right? We had them on. Well, so we share it out, and then Connor Handel sends out to all his group and says, look at me going back to telling our story. And then all of a sudden I see all these 2018 graduates piled into his Twitter and his LinkedIn page. And I was at a UW Parkside, ran into their athletic director, and I had a Noon Whistle shirt on. And he says, oh, you listen to that? So do I. It's great. And I think as we tell our story, we're sharing alumni stories, we're sharing local business stories.
The district story, and
the
what,
district story,
the connection, and what kids are doing out in our, our businesses or out in our community, and it really turned into finding out things about people, whether that be an alumni or a business owner or our kids out in the community and what they're doing, finding out things we didn't even know. Like we found out Scott Kunis and all these humanitarian efforts he was doing in other countries, and we just thought the Kunises were involved with Lake Lawn and car dealerships, and so some really interesting stories and some really interesting connections that have evolved from different people we've talked to far beyond when we're looking for, Chris goes, hey, do you know anybody that's looking to hire this person in this industry? Well, yeah, do you remember this person said they knew someone that, so yeah, that connection of school kids and as well as telling our Elkhorn story and what we're doing here and kind of intertwining that in the conversation of programs and opportunities.
And John and I were asked to present at the Metro Milwaukee Area Chamber of Commerce. We presented to a group of educators there. And I know John has a group that he meets with, and you can
Yeah,
share it
a
with
group
them.
of other professionals in other districts around southern Wisconsin who have similar titles or do similar things as to what I do. And we decided, hey, maybe we should get together and network. And it was interesting. We meet about every other month, every third month. Last time we met, they're like, hey, that Noon Whistle thing is pretty neat. And I'm like, wow, somebody watched it, like looked at it. But they were very interested and thought it was really innovative and a great marketing tool to tell the story of what's going on in the school, but also in your community.
And we can see it as a benefit, like John talked about. Besides inviting our business partners to tell their story and use the marketing, like we put, and you'll see it, we'll show a couple of them. Like we put their logo up every single time. The technology allows us to do that. So they get that up there and they're able to tell their story. You know, we're going to be advancing and bringing student groups in and telling Mr. Coach Handel is being invited. So he's bringing athletics and activities and co-curriculars in. We've been reaching out to teachers to tell their story so they can share. Community groups, we've had multiple community groups on to tell their story. And really the reach is so important in the sense of when, and I'll just say this as from a hiring standpoint, like the more we can communicate and teachers and other educators see this, the more they're, just from experience, we're getting our name out there as an innovative district that maybe they want to be a part of. And I think spreading that message at such a minimal cost, the StreamYard, I think about $400 a year for a license. And here we go. We just need our normal software to go forward. So it's really been, we're seeing it grow and gain some traction. And we'll show a couple right now.
Now, if you wanted to subscribe or watch live or recorded.
So I know this is hard to believe, but it didn't always go very well to start. Like
Go back up to
it really went bad actually.
Our first episode we were going to do, it was going to be Chris and I kind of introducing the whole thing. And we went, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Yeah, go. And we went through the whole 15, 18 minutes and got done. I'm like, that didn't go too bad. He said, yeah, that went great, but we got to do it again because it didn't record and I didn't have a live stream.
I didn't hit the button. So I thought as soon as I scheduled the timer to start at noon, I'm like, oh, it's just going to go live. And all of a sudden I looked halfway through and we're rolling and I look at this go live and I'm like, oh, do I have to hit that button or not? I don't know what's happening here, Jason.
You didn't do that with the governor, right?
Well, okay. So that's interesting. When we had Governor Evers on, he was super funny.
It doesn't look like correct link, Chris. Maybe try putting www.
I guess go ahead.
And the other use of these once they're recorded is teachers using them in classroom for classroom discussions that may a video or a Noon Whistle may correlate with a topic or a job or something they're doing in classes.
And that's the other side. Like we did one, which hopefully I'll show you. We did one with a panel of youth apprentices from Precision Plus. So, and we always try and weave into all the stories employability skills too. So people, so teachers can take this and bring this right into their classroom. So tomorrow we got Bridget Seegers on, 97 grad, works for NASA. So,
yeah, there's always interesting stuff that comes out that you kind of go a direction you didn't know you were going to go.
So you can see that we've become more adept at using thumbnails and technology. Early on, I'll show like our first one with we had Sam Stepness on from Stepness Builders. Funny thing is I'm showing this starting because at first John and I didn't know that there was a countdown. So this is how we notified each other. I would give some nonverbal cue, then we realized there's a countdown. You can put things at the bottom, and we won't show you a ton of them. Highlighting. Pardon for the Noon Whistle. John. So, so that was just like early on when we were trying to figure out, you know, how is this all going to work out? And then we slowly started to kind of refine our craft and had the same starting message. Like, okay, let's just keep going this. But this was one that we had with a panel. This was the first time we did a panel. Helpful because all the youth apprentices are school and how they got the jobs and benefits. And then thinking themselves, telling organizations how to be, how to reach out and whatever. The best part though is best part. This is pretty funny. So John all of a sudden out of nowhere asked for Michael J. Reeder, right? So, and he says, where is he? Get him in here. And I'm sitting there thinking, what is he doing here? What is this going to look like? So this is a pretty good story. Yeah, so we've had moments like that. It's been really good. You know, we continue to add some technology to make it more engaging. Patrick Gregowski was great. Here's an esports manager, talked about networking and the power of how he got his job as literally the head coach and manager of the Milwaukee Bucks esports team. So it's been really good. Dr. Mascaro's been on. We had Youth Build on. Kate Fink was on, another 2018 graduate. I had a panel of HR people on. John was on vacation at that time. Scott Cunis, we had Jason and Bill on for the referendum. So, yeah, I mean, it's been a really good opportunity. And as we go out and about in the public, it's a great way to engage our public. So, John,
No, thank you.
any questions?
Thoughts? Anybody want to be a guest?
Yeah,
I have a couple of questions.
yeah, go ahead.
So what's the under the school board? So please, if this question is already known.
Yeah, go ahead.
Kick me.
No, we love it.
Right. So what is the end? Is there an end goal here, or is it, what is your guys' plan for the future for this?
Yeah, so I think it's a really good question, and it's one that actually Scott Cunis posed to us. And he asked, he goes, when you decided to do this, what was your goal? Was it to, talk to business partners, and was it to engage community? Was it engage to tell your story? And I said, well, it's interesting that you asked that. I said, because at first it started off just like business partners. He goes, well, and then he interrupted me, he goes, let me just answer that for you. If it's just to keep doing all of that, he said it's a great thing. So it's just to keep telling the Elkhorn story, to keep getting people engaged, to keep people to know the alumni, to get alumni engaged, to engage our business partners and the ability to help brand their business, but also tell a little bit about what they do besides whatever their market is. We're now bringing in more kids, so we're gonna have student groups on there, so we can engage more families and all the great things Elkhorn's doing. So just keep growing it and developing it.
I think there's more than we thought. I think we had a narrow scope of this is what we're going to do and why we're going to do it, and to tell what we're doing here, what we're doing in our community. And I think we found out there's much more, and we can do whatever we want. If we thought there was someone that would be a great person to have on there or wanted to be on there, or we could do whatever we wanted to do or expand it however we want to, which is kind of the neat thing. And we find out a lot of interesting things. It's interesting to hear alumni reminisce when you have some, what kind of things impacted you as you came through Elkhorn. And they always have different stories about different teachers or experiences. Some teachers that are still here and some that aren't, have retired. So when Chris says nimble, I think we can adapt and adjust to whatever the PR marketing information that we want to get out.
I think the other side to it is, when you send a mailer out, inform families, or you send a school messenger out, or, you're always trying to figure out, are people really listening? Are you getting the analytics and the data on, is your messaging across? And by continuing to leverage social media using the platform, we're getting that feedback. And we're hitting a different audience that maybe historically we wouldn't be engaging. Because I know that a lot of the people who are following us are either business partners, but many of them are Rotarians who are retired and listening and learning more about the district.
How long have you guys been doing this on the website?
3 months?
Yeah, we started, I think our first one was like the third week in November. Yeah.
So about 5 months then?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's April now. So
April,
4 or 5 months.
Yeah, 3 full months, I would say, and then 4 full months, I should say. Yeah.
Gotcha.
You do get better with practice.
Yeah.
As you guys were flipping through that, of course, I've never heard of the YouTube page before.
Yeah.
So as you guys were flipping through there and looking at the different videos, I was noticing that there were different views on each different video, and they seem to vary. Some of them got very high views, some of them got not very low views, but
you're not going to hurt our feelings.
Right. So my question is, have you guys looked at which ones tend to have more engagement, whether it be by views or through the social media platforms that you guys are speaking about, and figure out kind of how to take, especially tailor.
I think sometimes, even though some don't get as many views, I don't know if they're less important.
Sure.
Maybe it's something within the community that maybe doesn't have a huge social media following, but is, their 40 views any less important than the governor that got, 300 and whatever. I think they all count, right?
And yes, early on when we started identifying people, we wanted those individuals who had a strong social media footprint. right? I mean, so that's, you know, obviously Precision has a strong footprint, so they started engaging them right away. Our first two were with CETA and the Chamber, who has a strong social media presence. So, but I think the ones that resonate the most, if you're asking me just like quick look, I think it's alumni and local businesses.
So, my final question is, do you find that students are engaging with these as well as you're going along, or is this more just the community as a whole right now?
I think the answer is no, and it's an area, that's why we're bringing more students onto the presentation. I think one, it's the timing we do it. Now that the soft, because we do it at noon, so it all depends on if they're available. The other side to it is we can have it recorded, so we're trying to get teachers involved and bring more people into it. We have sent out a handful of emails, continue to inform the district. I've had people that I've worked with, we went on trainings with. I think these are great to share employability skills, because it's given in context. Like Patrick Vygotsky did a great job of talking about the power of networking. Cade Fink talked about being engaged in high school. Like what, you know, so some of these, they have a great story that I think would resonate with more students than maybe, you know, in a traditional delivery model. So we're trying to.
I think that's where we need to go.
Yeah, we're not there yet. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
I would just add that I think at the root of that mission, at least from my perspective, when they talk about it, there's a lot of pros, you know, related to getting that message out. But we need, I know this is a focus of Chris, and then John is that community engagement coordinator, helps lots of work-based opportunities and experience for our students, and having those good relationships with the partnerships, expanding that network and that, you know, collection, because we're running, you know, close to 300 seniors or 300 plus seniors between CCA and options in the high school. That's a lot of placements that we end up doing and partnerships that need to have there. So at the end of the day, I'm excited about some of that expansion and or even solidifying and or opening up to it, because people do, it gives them an opportunity to speak about themselves, about their business, their programs as well. And I think that's going to open up additional doors for our students as well.
Yeah, I'm shocked coming out of the referendum how much just lack of knowledge of what's happening in Elkhorn there is. I think my phone rings at least once a week of people going, "What are your kids doing?" You know, because they're homeschooled, but they're not. You know, they're all over the place. And I had a call today. You know, like, call Chris.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that it's been happening now for a couple of years, but like doing things differently and having a half day and doing a work experience, kids don't think of those things on their own. So it takes an adult in their corner to prompt them and go, you know, you could try this, or you could try that, or you can go to Whitewater, Gateway, or options, or, you know, like I think until the parents are really well versed in that, it's not going to seem normal. And it should be part of the high school experience to have some of those work experiences. And I think it's been amazing.
And we never lose sight of, like, our goal is to scale up the work we're doing. Like, we want this to have an impact on student achievement and informed families, right?
And this is just a small piece.
There's a small piece of
all
it.
the other things that are going on. It's
but
just
for
in addition to.
free marketing, I mean, that's
Well, and the other side to this is, you know, we have to be honest as an entity, everybody here, understand that, you know, when open enrollment started, you know, in a perfect world, we want everybody to have the same budget. We want all the kids to stay in their own district. Or we can self-advocate, tell our story, and be real about how we are going to remain a destination district, because we are. And if I don't want to see another, I mean, you know, there are districts around this area that are duplicating what we've done. So how do we then stay current or ahead of the curve? And we have found, like, just from the reach of this, it is getting educators talking, and it's getting families talking. Anything else?
Thank you. Thanks.
And then, you know, Danny and you two are going to be on next, right? No, are you ready?
Okay, for having
You're like, let me get my employment proof first. Then maybe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Referendum update, the needed question passed. We'll continue the work and we have a budget retreat on Saturday with the board, which is the scheduled annual retreat. And I'm sure we can have some initial discussions in regards to next steps. That's all I have. Any questions?
There's a summary of the referendum results that they're
Yeah,
put together.
that was interesting.
Statewide, yeah, they always do that each cycle of referendum, so you can get kind of a flavor of how referendums fare around the state, both capital and operational.
So issuing of debt would be the capital projects. There's a building associated with that. The non-recurring are to exceed revenue caps for a specific amount of time. And then the recurring is not a time limited referendum. That's a permanent, kind of like our second question related to 4-year-old kindergarten was. We found in our region, 2 school districts did pass their referendum. East Troy, our neighbors, it was their 3rd attempt in the 3 years. That's all right. And they did have success with theirs, and then a small Canadian school district, Danville. So they had a building referendum and an operation question related to that. Many of the other school districts in our region had similar results, similar issues to ours as well. Around the state, you can see, the percentages or you can factor those. It's about 50% on the non-recurring questions, or a little bit more than 50% that pass.
It's pretty difficult, correct?
No, this was low.
Is it low?
Yeah, in recent history, that's been low. I think in the fall, what was the passage rate? Like 85%?
Yeah, over 80%.
But in the November election.
Right, in the November election.
So in a spring election, is this
It's
relatively?
super low usually.
On a percentage, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, is it about where we're going at?
No, this was a low passage rate.
Overall, yeah.
Yeah, overall. Yeah. It's a much lower, especially for the non-recurring ones.
I think at the bottom of the page, you can see kind of the history, going back. Percentages based on the type of project. The highest percentages was last November, when I was around the state.
Any other questions related to that?
Ministry personnel.
All right, we have a personnel sheet. We received the resignation of Shannon Izquierdo, who's accepted an associate principal position for next year. So this will be effective at the end of the year, closer to home in Wauwatosa. We have a transfer of Carrie Steinbauer from the middle school science position. It's an internal to a math position at the middle school. She'll be replaced, from math to science, she'll be replacing Mr. Neifeld. We have a transfer of Brianna Harris from a special education teacher position to a middle school math teacher position. And then they were hired at the last board member, but the official placement for Midsumness will be the middle school special education teacher position, replacing Brianna. And Mr. Stilling will be replacing Carrie Steinbauer in that math position. I see Vince and Danny are both here, so welcome aboard. And then we have a transfer of Glenn Hess to a Tibbetts custodial position. Any questions on that, or we want to make Danny and Vince give a speech?
I've actually got a couple questions. So 2 of those positions were the ones that we had held open, correct? Or we had,
the futures contract.
The futures, correct, right, okay. So then we're still waiting on one more then?
There's, one more, which we know we have the open position, but it's more waiting to see final placement.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be coming soon,
Right.
hopefully, for the end of the school year. I guess the last question I had is, I mean, this is, assistant principal. The resident, I mean, is there a reason why she resigned now instead of at the end of the year when she would be transferring out?
Yeah, it's customary that once you've accepted a contract for the coming year to do your resignation, so the district on which you work can go ahead and move forward with replacing you.
Gotcha. Okay, so this
She's
is,
staying for the rest
She's
of the school
staying.
year.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
she's working her contract out. She just gave a notice that I won't be renewing.
If you read her
signing the new
resignation
contract.
letter, she's staying. The
Yeah.
new position is being held.
gotcha.
It's rare for someone to, in education, to move mid-year. Doesn't mean they can't, but there's a severance penalty and so forth, but it's pretty rare. Usually they follow the.
That's where I guess where I was confused. 'Cause
Yeah.
I mean, coming from the outside, I'm used to, if somebody resigns, they're done. You know, they're as of right that second. It wasn't making any sense to me, at that
so-
point.
Yeah, so, and there is no requirement, technically, until they get their contract, they could then say, well, I'm not coming back, but it's more so a traditional courtesy in education because of the way the contracts work, giving notice as soon as possible, so the districts can move on.
Gotcha.
Until, like, I know Mr. Westcott, he let the board know a year in advance so they could start on the hiring process for his replacement. It's on your passion. So
They basically would come to you and say, hey, next year's, I don't know, my retirement, I will be resigning as of
Correct.
that year, and then we would approve it a year in advance type of thing? Is that how that work? Or is it like throughout the year we take a look at that, or?
Whenever they submit their letter of resignation, then that gives us the cue that we can go ahead and move forward with.
Okay.
Posting the position. Because we know that they're not going to be signing that contract for next year. It's a resignation, but it's just giving a lot of notice on the resignation.
Okay.
Is this going to be posted right away?
Yeah, I think we'll look at posting that, but I think we'll have some, discussions and so forth. And, whether we look internally or post that or look at some shifting as well possible. Very good questions. Any other questions? It is unique because sometimes employers, they hope to get 2 weeks notice, but it's also unique in a way in how people get locked in too. So, for example, if I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but if we have someone under contract for the year, we have a severance penalty, which allows them to break the contract if they pay a severance penalty. Some districts don't have a severance penalty. And what that can do is they can just say, no, if you're under contract for us, you can't go work anywhere else in Wisconsin. And if they do take a job somewhere else, it's against the law to be under contract with 2 different districts.
Gotcha.
We could contact BPI or that district could and say, hey, this person's under contract with us, and they can revoke the license.
Gotcha.
There's been instances, not with us, but where I've seen districts play hardball down here, but usually it's hard to, people have the right to resign. But,
Of course.
Other question?
I'll move to approve the personal recommendation sheet for April 10th, 2023, including new employment contracts, conditioned upon passing the background check and district mandate drug screen as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the personal recommendation sheet for April 10th, 2023, including new employment contracts.
Mr. Gannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gatton?
Yes.
Mrs. Ingersoll?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mrs. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Scarrow?
Yes.
Ms. Colton?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Motion carried. School gifts.
All right, I have 2 gifts to present this evening. Allison Fletcher is donating a trombone and a book to Jackson Elementary valued at $100. And Elkhorn Youth Volleyball has donated 2 sets of protective pads for the volleyball poles at Jackson valued at $600.
Thank you to them. The motion to accept the generous gifts.
I move to accept the generous gifts, school gifts as presented or modified.
Is there a second?
Second.
So moved and seconded to accept the generous gifts of Allison Fletcher and the Elkhorn Youth Volleyball as presented. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gayheart,
Yes.
Mr. Gatton,
Yes.
Mrs. Ingersoll,
yes,
Bill,
Yes.
Donald,
Yes.
Mrs. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Scarrow,
Yes.
Ms. Colton,
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
CISA 2 contract.
All right, each year CISA 2 sends us a copy of the contract for the coming year for services that it's anticipated that they'll provide. You'll see the dialogue with an attorney is related to our special education, really uses that as a consultant. It really pays a lot of dividends related to that. And then we also use Transition Advisory Network, which is educational ideology, which are all related to special education.
Questions?
Pricing comparable to prior year.
Yeah.
The IEP base, and this really comes down to that individual services. I would anticipate that there maybe based on what we need that there could be a potential increase on that, but that can vary from employee to employee from year to year. But I'm not aware of any other increase. Do you know, Bill?
No, not right offhand, but I know some of the, IEP services through CISA, Emily will use our flow through IDA funds on some of our federal dollars. So, that's a good source of use of those funds for that purpose. But then, like Mr. Chadwick said, it all depends on the student needs and then the number of hours, and we get a proposal from CISA that would cost.
Thank you.
Other questions? Hearing none, information.
I'll move to approve the 2023-2024 CISA number 2 contract as presented.
Is there a second? So moved and seconded to approve the 2023-2024 CISA number 2 contract. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gayheart,
Yes.
Mr. Gavin, yes. Mrs. Ingersoll,
yes,
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Mrs. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Scarrow,
Yes.
Ms. Colton,
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carried. Announcements.
The election canvass is tomorrow, April 11th at 8:30 a.m. The budget workshop is scheduled for this Saturday, April 15th at 8:30 a.m. I plan on at least till 11:30. We usually use the full 3 hours or so. And then there's a personnel committee meeting scheduled for April 17th, starting at noon. That's here at the district office. And then I want to do, Mr. Martell is online, but let me go ahead and stop presenting here. And, Mr. O'Donnell, if you, under your desk, there's a special recognition. We want to give a huge thanks to both Mrs. Ray and Mr. Martell. And Paul will, get you your resignation. Your resignation is fine, but yeah, you can your recognition for your years of service as a school board member. And I don't know if Mrs. Ray
Yes,
can
I'm opening
hold that
it.
up and.
I just really want that.
You know what's happening.
No, I didn't. I just thought it was sneaking out because I've been begging
yeah.
Matt to use it for at least 6 years.
So you get your own gavel and apply for, thank you for your years of service. And I believe both
Great.
Jenny, you and Paul both started at the same
We
time.
did
correct?
6 years ago together.
So time flies.
Yeah, yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like 6 years. But
Thank you very much. I just wanted,
Thank you.
we wanted to give you that recognition and thank you for all of your time and years of service. And I think it's fitting of a big round of applause. And I think we should announce at the next meeting will be the first meeting of both of your replacements, Mrs. Reck Rees and Mr. Andre. And, want to congratulate both of them for their, school board candidacies, and you will welcome them to this. That's good. That's all I have.
Okay, promotion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
moving the second to adjourn. Roll call vote.
All right, Mr. Gahern.
Yes.
Mr. Gaffney.
Yes.
Mrs. Ingersoll.
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Yes.
Mrs. Ray. Mr. Scarrow.
Yes.
Ms. Colton.
Yes.
And Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries.